in terms of child protection,
Yeah.
how does that impact? I'll leave it for you to just try and differentiate that. In a minute, I'll talk about research by NSPCC and how mental health contributes to social services involvement.
I mean, mental health issues or problems are varied in a different are varied.
Mm.
Some people experience mental health uh,
Um, in our culture, if they say some, or in the Ghanaian culture, because there are people who are listening who are obviously not Ghanaians, but in the Ghanaian culture or the black culture, if somebody says, if somebody is described as suffering from mental health, automatically the person is stigmatized and they have a name for this person. So then it becomes something that they are very shy about.
Yeah.
They become closed. Simple things, because mental health is really vast.
Vast, yeah.
It can be like anxiety and
Yeah.
panic attack
Attacks,
disorders.
yeah.
That goes
It can
under
be
mental.
OCD.
It can be OCD. Somebody just OCD want to arrange things and constantly washing their hands.
Yeah.
So that as well is mental health. Depression is mental health.
Yeah.
And
Anorexia.
how anorexia is mental. Eating disorders,
Yeah.
and then we have the schizophrenia, and then substance abuse and addiction under mental health. And so it goes on and on and on.
Yeah, but I think you've nailed the you hit the
Nail on the head,
nail on
yeah.
the head, because I think we tend to be afraid of this thing called mental health.
Yeah, exactly.
Problems.
Yeah.
And I think that is why sometimes we do not ask for help,
Yeah.
and that will lead to us losing our children and losing our loved ones, because we will wait.
Yeah.
I know that I can't sleep. I get really anxious. I feel that there's impending doom. And instead of me telling someone, and sometimes some of these things, all you need to do is to have someone that you can talk to who will listen to you, give you time to express your fears, and help you come to terms with it, and saying to you, I don't think this is quite, because yes, someone being so afraid to get to embarrassed because he will crash and they will die. and
They
everyone
have panic attacks.
yeah, panic attacks, and everyone gets onto the bus. So you can reason with the person and say, yes, I can see your fears, but we are afraid, so afraid, because we don't want to be stigmatized. And I think that if we will stop authorities coming into our homes and removing our children, the stigmatization is to go away. And we need to understand that someone may come to you who is in a very depressive state and saying that I'm depressed. Number one, not just throwing it off and say, oh God, why
it's not in our family. Mental health is not in our family.
It's not in our family, that kind of thing. It doesn't matter whether it is in your family or not. The person needs help. And also saying that, oh well, and there have been people who said that people have said that then you're not a good Christian, that's why you come and have problems. Or that's why you're depressed. So it's all those things that stops people from coming in and saying that, well, I am really depressed, I can't do anything, and I need help. And I can reassure people that even if you got a label mental health and you problems or and you seek the right kind of help, no one will be knocking at your door, taking your children away or coming to do anything. But it's when you shy away from the problem and not go and seek help when you need to seek help. That is when the problems arises, because we are always trying not to let the other person. Also, as a community, we should learn.
We should change our mindset.
We should change our mindset, and also not to talk too much. Because I come to you and I tell you I'm depressed, even the doctor is putting you on medication. I trusted you and I told you that. It's not a conversation topic between you and your other friends. And I think that is where the problem lies, because we are so afraid that when I come and tell you that I've been diagnosed with schizophrenia, you will tell other people, and that people will shy away from me. People walk on the other side of the road when they see me coming. People will think that I am crazy, because back home, the picture that comes into our head is
when you talk about mental health, it's crazy. This person is crazy.
Who can't control anything, and sometimes they are naked walking about, picking food from the floor and whatever. What we don't understand is that's happened to that person because of
they're not managed, lack of medication and all of that,
lack of social support, all comes into play, right? So mental health issues is prevalent in lots of people. I mean, the research has said that 1 in 6 adults, I mean, some says 1 in 4 will have mental illness at some point. But in every given time, 1 in 6 adults do have mental health issues. But only 1 in 1,000 will have serious mental health issues.
Okay.
So when you look at it,
I can tell you, which means that all of us have had mental health at some point.
At some point.
If you stress
so much,
when you start having your children and
you
the
are
stress
stressing, you are not sleeping, you are
Yeah.
anxious,
Yeah.
even taking your child has started school, you go home, you are so anxious. Will this child be able to cope? Will that child will have... If we have gone to the doctors and express all that thing, we could have been given that clinical
small medication,
medication, or send you for therapy session to talk about you stressing too much, right? But in our community, we don't understand that there are lots of people. I always say to people that, look at Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill
he had mental health.
Yes,
and
one of those prime ministers that this country actually loved. But
he had mental health.
He had bipolar, which is a serious mental health issue. It's not like the depression and the anxiety and whatever. That is serious mental health problems. But he managed. So if he could manage and look after the whole country with a mental health issue, what is saying that if you have got mental health issues, you can't manage? You can, but the problem comes when you don't seek help. When you don't seek the right help from the right people, you don't take your medication, because some people say that, I mean, if I tell you that I once went to visit, I was practicing somewhere and someone says that, oh, this woman, she's refusing to take her medicine and blah, blah, blah. And I saw the name, Ghanaian name. Lo and behold, I went to this house. Who was that woman? My classmate.
Oh, dear.
From secondary school. A graduate from Legon. And she's saying, oh, but this illness is, she was diabetic. She wasn't taking her medicine. And it's not in my family. And I said to her that, what kind of rubbish is that? You are an educated woman. What stops you from reading all those information and learning it for yourself? And stop that nonsense about your whatever. Do you want to die and leave this baby? So because he was my classmate and she used to sit in front of me in school, in secondary school, and we chat about it, and then she started sort of looking at it and understanding it.
She became reassured.
Reassured that this thing, and she's saying that, oh, but no one took their time to explain it to me. I said, well, even if they did that time, and also we are talking about mental health issues. There are a lot of people who are suffering from cancer, diabetes, chronic diseases, who are depressed, who, if we count them, they are part of the people with mental health issues. But people only look at them because they have got cancer. So that's the only thing that people look at. So when we are talking about these mental health issues, it's not all of us, and like I said, that people become depressed and get better. There are some people who get clinically depressed to the extent that they can't get out of bed to even go and wee. They can't get in bed to go and feed themselves. That is when we get really, really serious about it and say, oh, this person is really, really depressed. And that is a clinically
depressive, serious depression can also result in child protection issues.
But that person neglects themselves. That person won't even get up to go and eat. That person won't... Won't get up and do anything. So those are the things that we are talking about. So we shouldn't be afraid. All that I would say is that we shouldn't be afraid if they say that, oh, you have got mental health problems. You are saying that, what can you help me to get over this? What support? Or what medication, what therapy session is out there that you can go to? Because a lot of people, all that they needed was to go into a therapy session. And they don't go. And sometimes we don't understand why they don't go, because maybe the person wasn't seen as being depressed. They term that the person has got some form of mental health issues. That person looking after them didn't think about the depressive nature of the mental health issue. So the person may refuse to do things. So the best thing is for getting down. And the best thing is getting the person to go and see their doctor again and encourage them to take their medication, or even if it's therapy that they have to go. The best thing is to do that and not to run away from them and say that, oh, the person is mad. Because that word mad is really, really hurtful.
I think that is what has created, in our culture, that is what has created that, stigma and that kind of myth, that if somebody has got mental health, then straight away we stigmatize the whole family. This way of or that kind of thing, that the house of madness kind of thing. And they just, because of that, they also hide away. They fail to. Also, one thing I want to say also is that I think that sometimes people do not seek help because they don't know they're suffering from mental health. They know they're suffering from something, but it's not. They can't pinpoint what it is. That's why it's important to seek help.
And also, I mean, these days, you know that women, when they are, like we are talking about child protection, whatever, women, when they are pregnant, they are supposed to be screened for prenatal depression. And the problem is, at the moment, because years ago when we were practicing health visiting, if you are working with a good GP, all the women who get pregnant, list will be sent to you. So you know that this woman is pregnant or whatever. And sometimes, some of them you might have known that when they had their first child, they had that, weepy, PTSD, whatever. But it did not become a full-blown depression. So you keep an eye on that woman when they are pregnant, and you support them more, and you go and discuss things with them, and you see what support they needed and what to support them. But these days, because services have been so fragmented, women get into pregnant, and sometimes some people, they're okay, but then coming to the time that they are going to have the baby, then they are thinking, oh my God, how am I going to push this baby out? How am I going to have this
They become anxious,
and they become very, very anxious. And those things, if it's not looked after properly, then they had the baby and it becomes a full-blown depression that they can't...
Postnatal
they can't deal with the baby at all. But like you're saying, if you're feel you're pregnant, or you just had a baby and you don't feel all right, sometimes you can't really, like this woman said to me, I can't really know, I don't know any words to explain how I feel, but I know that I'm not well, right? And if
that's when you go to the doctor and describe how you feel to the doctor, and then they will pinpoint and make that diagnosis.
They make that diagnosis for you. And people also are afraid that, oh, they will put me onto medication. Not everyone gets medication. Not everyone gets medication, because I know that in the early 1990s, in the 90s, coming to end of mid-90s, coming to end, Prozac was given like sweets. But research has shown that some people, it made them suicidal. So now the doctors have stopped giving different types of medicine that will help you. So it depends upon how you're feeling. They will give you whatever antidepressant. And so a lot of women that I know who sought help at the right time get off the depressive stage very quickly. The medication is taken off, and they are able to look after their own family.
Uncle Sam, do you want to add anything? So we are at the stage where we're talking about the mental health state and how people respond, how society sees mental health, and the types of mental health that we have at the moment.
I think one of the things we need to talk about, I don't know whether you heard about stigma.
We talked about stigmatization.
One of the issues about mental health in general, as you said, I heard you talking about earlier, is that everyone in their life stages
has suffered some kind of mental health.
But it's about, and especially with depression, anxiety, and all those, but it's about when it gets to a level. And especially when, as you rightly said, when with some women or when they are pregnant, the associated issues could trigger. And that's why it's important that if it's getting to the situation where there's evidence that the person is not well, then it's important that they seek help. But also, people around you, as you rightly said, sometimes in our community, you see the warning signs. And they cannot associate it whether it's with the normal pregnancy or there's something extra.
So if the way you're talking, I would assume that this is all targeted at the women. We are targeting it at the women.
But I will bring the men in.
It's not always women.
I'm talking about
women who suffer from.
So we are talking about parental capacity and mental illness. So that's the woman's side. Or there could be a man in the house who is equally a father, who there are symptoms, who the children are seeing something which is not normal. And if, for instance, a father is suffering from mental illness, and there are signs the children, depending upon their age, or the partner or the wife knows that this is not correct, it's about how we seek help. Because more often than not, if there's an issue, whether the person has lost temper or whether there's an issue about neglect, and you go in, you hear things like, oh, I was depressed. It could be both sides, because initially I started with, and you realize that these people might be starting with, oh, we were overwhelmed.
Okay, so it could be that for the woman, childbirth normally comes sometimes with mental health, but for the men, it could be job loss, it could be pressures from home, their own life history,
even the pregnancy,
the wife being pregnant,
it could be drug-related
issues, alcohol issues as well.
Sometimes cannabis itself, and some people. So we are talking about situations where if any of this who are dealing with children, especially young children, specifically, get boiled down to their own issues that it triggered anxiety related or depression. Yeah, because I've been dealing with a case recently which resulted with both parents using the word "we are depressed," anxiety, we couldn't seek help, and it led into serious neglect. That so sometimes yes, in terms of parental capacity, as you rightly said, it's more of parents first and foremost identifying what is wrong with them, because people have to give a reason. If it's not drug related, if it's not neglect, there should be underlying issue.
There should be an assessment.
There should be underlying issue why you are not able to cope. Why you sleep to the extent that if the children are not going to school,
you don't even know.
You don't, because nobody's going to school. So the child you go in there and then nappies are and they refuse for people to see the children and all that. So yes, coming back to I think it's you and first and foremost, one of them or the person himself identifying that there's something which I can put my hand on, but I'm not able to cope. Because it all starts with people not going to cope, because it's easier to find or to be able to identify the serious mental illness where somebody is lost it.
So what we're saying today is that a person, as a mental health sufferer, can't take care of the child or can take care of their children. However, it depends on the situation and the severity of the situation. And so NSPCC carried out a research, and it says that it's important to remember that most parents or carers who experience mental health will not abuse or neglect their children. It's important to know that. However, mental health problems are frequently present in cases of child abuse, neglect. And the analysis of 175 serious case reviews that took place from 2011-2004, they found that 53% of the cases featured parental mental health problems. So apart from other issues like drug issues and things like the toxic trio that we normally have, the alcohol,
what is toxic trio?
The toxic trio in terms of you have the substance misuse, mental health, and then domestic abuse. These three issues, mental health features.
Yeah, but I was saying that with the mental health, if you break them down, you realize that most of them have got drug or alcohol issues. Even though they were not the first thing they checked on the form. When you look at the data from NSPCC, it showed that most of them had drug and alcohol misuse problems. The problem is that we are talking about our community in general. For instance, we need, because you see that your friend or your sister or whatever is not behaving the way that
in a rational way.
In a rational way. And sometimes we find it very difficult to talk to the person about it. We would rather go and gossip instead of saying to the person that, how come I always see you dress up so nicely, so what's happening to you? What's the matter? You should find a way of finding out and pointing the person out to see. Not in a judgmental way, saying that, why your time, papa. Because if you say it that way, even if you are being helpful, I would take offense. But if you are saying to me that, what is going on? I mean, you're not yourself these days. Have you tried to speak to your doctor about whatever is going on? I may check it. Then if you come to me and you start saying that, I look like, look at how you're dressed, you are as if you're crazy. Already I'm frightened of being labeled as being mad. So when you come to me and say, why are you dressed like you're mad? All of a sudden, I'm thinking, okay, then I can't talk to you. Now they can even see. You see how the paranoia starts. Now they can even see that I'm mad. So I will not seek help. And there are some men out there whose wife gets pregnant, whether it's first baby or second baby, whether they've lost their job or not lost their job. Some men do get serious anxiety when their wives are pregnant. Right? Not being in control. Not knowing whatever, especially when the wife is not feeling very, very well, and they don't know what is happening to the wife, and everything seems to be going out of hand. There is something they can't control. They get really, really depressed. So some men do have prenatal and postnatal depression as well. But if you're a man like that, it's better. Often what we do for men like that is to go and sit and have therapy session where you have about minimum of about 8 sessions, where you go 1 hour each. You go and you talk to someone about how you're feeling and what are your fears. What do you think is going to be a worst thing that will happen when you're a child, your wife brings this baby home or whatever. So it helps. But you can only get, instead, because when men don't seek help at that stage, they bottle it up and then later it becomes something very, very big. Because as I said that, yes, I can say that I feel depressed, but that does not mean clinical depression. You only become clinical depressed when you are tested, and sometimes depression, someone who can actually get up and clean themselves and do whatever, you see them being in bed, they can wet their bed and lie in it, they won't eat, they won't have a bath, and those things that we are looking at and think the person is clinically depressed. So we shouldn't shy away if we are feeling so anxious. It's better to just get help. That will stop you spiraling down to a place where then you become clinically depressed, or clinically you get clinical label, and then it's very difficult to take yourself from the bottom. If you're halfway down, it's easy to climb up. But if you get to the bottom, it's very, very easy to dig yourself up to get to a place, because at that time, because of maybe the depression or whatever mental health issue, maybe you've lost your job by not being the person that you are, and having because your employer can't sack you because you've got mental health issues, if they know. But if you don't tell them, and all of a sudden you are this person who is supposed to, let's say, mind reception, and then today you come, people just walking in and out, you don't ask any question. When people ask you a question, you're angry and shouting and whatever. Your manager may think that you are not doing your work properly, and therefore you may get a sack. But if they know that you have got mental health issues, and they see that your mood have changed, things are happening that is not normal, they can call you to the office and say, I think it's about time you go and see your doctor, maybe. You know, I mean, talking about children and all those things. I mean, I had a very, very good, very young family where the daughter, who that time was 9 years old, was the one who would phone the doctor or phone the health visitor and says, I think my mother is not well. And she was only 9. Mother was
so that's a child carer. I think that sometimes...
And she will call. This woman... because we all knew she has God, she had carers who will come in and take their children to school and support her, look after her children. So she was someone who had whatever. But the first person, even the child will ring, that 9-year-old will ring and say, I think my mom is not well.
So that brings us, Auntie, that brings us under... the age range when we're talking about caring, because as I got a contribution here from somebody from Ghana who's saying that it can lead to death. And it ties in with it. It's true, it can lead to death, but it ties in with the mentality, as we're saying, of the child. Of course, it ties in with the mentality of how we see people who suffer from mental health in Ghana. Because, for example, in Ghana, as we said before, the way we see the person is a severe form. You see some kind of somebody who's really not with it, but they have the children, so then they take the children away from it. That is there, but we're talking about generally where we have and everybody has suffered mental health at some point. I'll tell you, maybe last week I even may have suffered one with my stress of cases and all of that. So it's there that we suffer, but it's how we see it. One thing I want to look at before we get to that point is again how we approach people, because you were talking about you know, if somebody is suffering from, you see that somebody is behaving irrationally, how do you approach them? My issue also is that I can only use the church, where a church will say that, okay, this woman is behaving in an irrational manner, and then they say, oh, let's just pray for the person. And then I think that to me, I think that exacerbates the situation.
Because as you were saying, in terms of the prayer, sometimes it's about lack of knowledge from all aspects. Because if somebody comes to church and he or she sits quietly, doesn't associate, and as Auntie said initially, you know this person to be vibrant, somebody who is energetic, and all of a sudden is continuing for some time, and nobody is talking to the person to see exactly, you might not know. If somebody comes in and he or she is aggressive, I remember when I started this church, there was this woman who comes in there, you could see that there was something wrong with her. She comes in there, and when it's collection time, the way she'll be doing that, and once in a while, people will just pick her up, and she used to come in and do some bizarre things. You could see that there was something not well with this woman. That's one. I've also seen somebody in this church where we knew there was the person with a child in the church here, where the person was not well, and when the child is crying, the person will just shush off, and the child is crying. To send that, at that time I used to go in, support this person and the husband, and we pick the child up and all that, and we were aware that the person was not well. So with the latest one, there was a situation where there was support for that person, and it ended up very well. The other one where the person was going around, I never saw her because she used to come once in a while, and I didn't see what happened. So if you cannot say we were praying the one I know, we were praying, but we did practical support. The family did practical support, which was mental health support, family support, children were supported, and they are living together as we speak now. So what I'm saying is that we should not just pray, we should do the practical aspect.
Because sometimes if you go about praying, you leave it for too late, praying, and then that's when the social services will come in because the situation gets worse.
I mean, you are talking about the praying. I mean, I'm not
praying. We're not against prayer.
No. Definitely we should pray, but we should also signpost them to the right services so that they get the right support. Because like I'm saying about this woman, she had that time, I mean, I met her when she had 2 children older, so it's a baby. And we thought that this baby, with her history of mental, what they were going to take. But she's worked with a team of people who support her. So she lives with her children, and she's been able to cope because you know that, and she knows the triggers. And I think that that's one of the research that was done in Redbridge here. That was what you said, Auntie Tracy, was some of the things that the young people, some with mental health issues, said that when they are happy to even come to church and say, I've got mental health issues, and say to the pastor, but what they don't like is that them being called in front and someone say, oh, let's pray for so and so because he's got mental health issues or whatever. And she says that no one ever said to him, the first time he said that in the church, he says they prayed, but no one said to him that, have you seen your doctor about this issue? And who is supporting you? Do you have any social support out there? This is what the church we can do. We need you to go and see the doctor first, and whatever, we will come and hold your hand. Whatever you need, we will support you, but we need you to see the doctor first. Says no one said that. So as for praying, yes, we are all good. It's good to pray. And also when you go there and they give you medication, you have to take their medication. We are not a church that says that don't take medicine. You should take your medicine and also keep on praying. There's power in prayers. But as you're waiting for your miracle to happen, don't neglect yourself. Don't not stop taking the medicine, saying that, they are praying for me now, so I don't have. Then that is when services will come in and remove your children, and your family will be broken apart because you are not following what you are supposed to be following.
And also, I remember, for instance, the PRWC, recently we circulated, because we're going to have a session of mental illness, and we've circulated questions people want this mental health professional to address. So there are practical things I work with confirmation because people I know have written to be able to enlighten people. Because it's this kind of ignorance, and sometimes people are saying that, oh, you don't need to, because there are levels. Because like if I have a kind of risk of significant harm, and those affected could be, and to a child, because there are different levels. If it's delusional and you are looking after young children. I've dealt with cases some years ago where this mother used to get up 5 o'clock and bath the children cold water.
Cold water.
So that way, the mother is really ill.
No,
because
that's what I'm saying. So when you see this like that, you address it. You cannot. And if anybody around, they were in a kind of hostel. Where these workers will say, well, the children were crying when you go in the mother, and the children were just messing out there. And everybody there realized something was wrong. But people are not reporting till one later when you meet with them and you are talking about, they talk about this list of things. And things you realize that any person who is of himself or herself will not be doing that. No, so the impact, and they were, one was about 2.5 years, one was about 5.
This is what it happens in our community, where people do not say anything. You know that they say, "Oh, it's none of my business," but they will gossip.
That's the thing. That's one thing that I don't like, because you know there's something wrong. Instead of supporting the person, or
because then if you support, it doesn't get serious.
Even if it means that, I always say to people that, even if it means that you call social services and they come in, they will give this
support.
Because think about that person and the children, like these children who have been given cold bath early in the morning. Can you imagine winter time? Even this time.
That's what she used to do.
And what she was saying was that to drive spirit out of them, and it's indication of somebody who's not well.
No. But that's what happens, especially with babies. When you help them, you come across some of these women who may think that, you know, this the risk that you are talking about, because someone may have postnatal depression. Theirs is crying a lot, not being able. They think they can't think properly, they can't do things. But some of them, they will not harm anyone. But there are some whose child will be crying from morning till night. They will not take that child out because they think that that child has got some powers and can do. There are some. There's a woman who threw the child through the window, saying that, oh, the child can fly. So because she was depressed, she threw the child through the window, thinking the child has got powers. So
the child will stop himself from falling.
And the child died. And there are some who think that the child is a devil. For them, they will actually do physical harm to this child. Actually want to kill that child because they think the child is a devil coming to tempt them and whatever. So, like we
say, in this country, if you that line, if you do that, definitely your children are coming out of the home. If you come and tell us that the child has got spirit, the child is this, that. If you start thinking that way you cannot keep your children. Definitely they come out first to be protected. If you start thinking
and I think that's why sometimes, going back to people around, and it's for community, for everyone to understand that when people are not well, and we are talking about extreme, it could be anyone. So sometimes people around them, if a young person who sees your mom, or a partner who sees your wife or husband, these are things you have to seek help for them. Because sometimes our way of looking at it is that, how old are the children? Are they children who can run away and tell daddy or mommy, or somebody who relies?
That's the next one I was coming to say. That's the next one I was going to say, that you know, first of all, we know that all mental health problems can vary in severity. So the impact that can have on children depends on the parent and the carer and their circumstances and the support that they receive, as we've highlighted here before. So somebody has given us a comment here, which says that, she says that parenting is accompanied by challenges and opportunities. There is no difference for normal mothers and mentally challenged mothers. Challenges may be coping abilities. Then she said coping abilities, interpersonal relationships, social and economic levels of function. Children are at risk if mentally challenged parent is not able to function at these levels. That's what the person is saying. Says parents cannot provide affection and effective discipline for better outcomes for children. Yeah. Then the final one she's saying is that this is crucial from birth until adulthood. Effects could be dire, resulting in risk of severe injury, profound neglect, and even death.
All right.
That's what she's saying. That is looking at the severity
yeah.
of it.
And also in terms of going back to what we were talking about, the levels, because sometimes when you are dealing with babies or when you are dealing with children who are dependent on the adult who are not well, then what kind of mental illness are you talking about? Are you talking about something which the person, as part of his mental or her mental illness, feel that people around them are a nuisance, or children seeking help? And that's where the assessment comes in terms of what's the person exhibiting, what's the person suffering from. Because we can talk about small things like obsessional or compulsive behaviors, which when you are an adult and you put something there, and your dad, OCD, will say, oh, this not, or somebody who's dealing with a small child who's messed himself up. And if he's suffering from OCD, and it's one, are they going to be so mad that they will not deal with the child? Yeah. So it's not just the illness, but
they could though.
No. They would do that, but they will do that repeatedly. Said that you will harm the child.
Because you will be cleaning and cleaning.
And scrub you and scrub and scrub and scrub.
So that one, you will say, or somebody who is so depressed that the child is supposed to be changed, and they can't, because come on, I didn't have a good sleep. You are done it from 2 o'clock. You'll be sleeping it till, and that could be that severe. So those are the things.
But in a sense, depending on the age of the child,
and also the circumstance. It's because if you, as we keep repeating, that one of the parents are suffering from this illness, and you are caring for the child, the reason why we are using women is that they are mainly the care. But if a man, you go to work and you come in and realize that your wife is been unwell, then your responsibility is to support that and have a plan, which might come in later in terms of some of the things you need to do to support.
To support, because and the danger is higher when it's only a single parent, parent family, because then you don't have, that child doesn't, even the ones who can even report and seek help, don't have any other person, because one child may single, I'll wait till daddy comes, so I wait till mommy comes, and I'll tell, and mommy will do this for me. So at least they have got a backup. But when the family is just a one-parent family and that parent is not ill, it's very, very difficult, because like I was saying, that even the ones who will not actually do any harm, we may think will not do it, doesn't do any harm, but that's harm in a runabout way, because the child may be crying forever and they'll be sitting down there, and they won't hit the child, they won't do anything, but the child can cry till from morning till evening. They will not budge, they will not get off the water. That you may think is passively, but that child could be choking, that child could be lying in feces or whatever and develop pressure sores. So you are talking, that child could be hungry, and yet mother or the carer is sitting down there and can't be bothered to even move, you know? So when we are talking about this mental, it's not something that people with mental health issues that children needed to be removed from that. We are not just talking about it just because, local authorities don't have enough work to do, so they just go
they
and
have
knock
a lot of work to do.
People's door. It's about the safety of the children or the child in the house, because if someone is in that house said that the child, it's happened that a mother, she had 2 children, and the 3-year-old was hungry, that she said that because she's hungry and mother may be hungry, she tried to make herself a cup of tea. And what happened? She burnt herself she burnt herself completely, because she was able to put the water on the to boil it. The kettle, she turned it on, but the kettle was up, and the 3-year-old, she was trying to grab it, and then it turned, and it caught on her. You know, so when we are talking about situations when parents are not fully well, you can't say, this is my sister. If I say something, people are going to work. If you are not going to be there supervising and looking after the children for your sister or your brother, then you need to seek help for that person, because that person at that time may not they may even think about it. I know someone who said when she got better, saying that I knew I needed something, but I couldn't even remember. I know I needed something, but I couldn't even remember all it is that I needed. You know,
But I remember the girl, the lady who thanked you later for removing the children initially.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, because I think it's about insight, isn't it?
Yeah.
And sometimes when you work with people and you see the circumstance, because this was one I was referring, she was one who used to bath the children in the morning.
Yeah.
And it was after we've gone through, they put her in the London hospital where she did, and I used to take the children. And the first day I took the children to go to see her in the hospital, she came and embraced me. But the previous night, you remove the children, night of, we have to go and get backup police. When he went there, 11:30, she was doing this thing, and he had a knife in the kitchen. And the police said, drop the knife. He said, this African man has come to deceive me with the police coming here. So when you look at from there, to the time when we went to hospital, and the first time I took the children after she stabilized. Yeah. So you could see that
she was
lack of
thankful.
insight.
She was thankful
because she had an
children.
awareness.
Yeah.
No. So those are the things we are talking about extreme, yeah? But that was schizophrenic because she was hearing voices and what the voices were telling her to do with the children. And we were talking about 2 years, and I think the other one was 5 years. But I remember that in terms of the impact on the children, the 2-year-old by that time was frozen watchfulness because you have to cover her with a blanket. The 6-year-old, the 5-year-old, she laced her shoes ready to like run, right? So you could see that these children were traumatized. They want somebody to rescue them. Yeah. And it was when they were asking mom, the 2-year-old couldn't because he couldn't talk. Yeah. But the 5-year-old, when are you going to see mom? So when mom was okay, we went to see. She embraced me and he said, thank you for looking after my children. When am I going to have them back? And all later the children were
sent back to her.
But it's about where, and it was, we were talking initially about circumstance. No, she was in an abusive relationship. The partner will go in and take the children, knowing that this woman was not well, but was not supporting her.
And the partner, instead of him to ask for support, because it's important. Sometimes people hide it as well. They hide it, and I must say, one case that I recently worked on was this lady. You know that pastor Robert Daya Gilbert Daya. So this lady was going to this Gilbert Daya's church. Gilbert Daya, for all of you out there, is an African Ugandan pastor or what kind of Kenyan or something pastor who was trafficking children or
and giving them out.
Exactly. So this lady was going to this pastor, and she said that something happened to her. I don't know, but the brain can be very, our mind can be very, very delicate. This woman said that she went to the church for so long, and suddenly she started hearing that she felt that the pastor did something to her. So she will feel something in her stomach, and then something told her to push her child. So she pushed her son down the stairs. We don't know that, but she immediately she realized she brought the child by herself to A&E to seek help for the child. And then when she got to the hospital, she was able to say that this is what I had done. I wasn't feeling well. I didn't feel right. Something happened to me and I pushed my child. And so they gave the child, they gave her help. They took her to hospital. She stayed there for 6 months. And then we took the child and they found a grandmother, somebody to take care of the child. But the plan was to have this child adopted. And then I said to them, but by the time I got in, this child is already
being prepped.
This child is already okay. The mother is doing well. Everything's fine. We needed to give her a chance. She has family around her. That is why it's important to get family support. She has family around her who are supporting her. A care coordinator was saying she's doing well, and she's been caring for. She's had another child since, and we gave that child to her. That child who is a baby.
Was with her.
Was her.
So if the baby is with her, then
if
she can keep the baby who's under one, then why can't she keep the 5-year-old?
And she had the partner too with the baby.
She has a partner. So then you have to give the baby
you have to assess the support network.
The situation and look at the support network. And this is what we did. And this mom is really taking care of the children. I'm always encouraging her, saying, you're doing well. don't be careful. We don't want any accidents. And now, I'm really, really supporting this mother to do well. Yeah. So it's very, very important. I think it's the age range. Yeah. That is the risk factor.
The age range is the risk factor, and also having the right. I mean, let's say having the right social worker to work with, because I think some of this you said this what you just said, because the fear that we have got is that people work in different ways. Someone would have come in, even though the baby is with the mother, not support the mother to get a 5-year-old.
Exactly. Yeah.
So there is that much distrust that we have, that when I go and ask for help, would it mean that someone else will come in the house and try and take my child away? And I think that is what we need to dispel. We need people to understand that once you get help, this woman did the right thing. That's why she got her child back.
She's got help. She's being monitored. She's engaging with all the services. She's taking her medications. She's
the
on
partnership working.
Injection
from professionals from the family.
Taking all of her medications.
Doing the right things.
And doing the right things. And I think that, people say, oh, how come we've come here and this mental? I said, well, back home, we do have it, but it's called family support. Because when you have one child, everyone comes around and supports you. Here, you come here and you have a child. You're on your own. Everything you have to do for that child. If you don't even have a friend where you can say, oh, can you have this child for me for 5 minutes and whilst I take a deep breath. So if you don't have a supportive partner who will help you, it can lead to some people having a depression that will lead to being clinically depressed because the stresses and everything. And I remember these days you have to get your car. I remember when the children are young, when you're getting on the bus, you have to have your change. Some of these bus drivers won't even take you, and it's raining and your child is in a pushchair and says, oh, there's one pushchair on it and whatever. Some people, I remember very well. That's why I took my children home, because I was trying to get onto this bus. And the man says, I've got £5 in the morning. He says, no, I don't have change. I could see he's got all the change in front of him. But he didn't give me the change, and it was raining, and I had to stand at that bus stop with my children and whatever. So there are so many stresses out there. And we need to sort of try and support each other. And we need to seek the right support, like you said about the church. Even if it means that we support each other because we are parents, or we support each other because we are all Ashantis, or we support each other because whatever reason, we need to sort of try and get support among ourselves, because the biggest problem or the biggest issue is about support. Sometimes you don't see that you are that tired until that child starts crying. And you think that I don't have anyone and I'm going to deal with this child again. And that's where problems start. But when people have got the confidence, and I always say to parents that crying doesn't kill any child. If you're that tired and you know you are going to harm that child, please leave that child to cry, because there's no point in
get help.
And get help. There's no point in you hurting your baby. Just get help. Even
especially shaking the baby.
Shaking the baby because the baby is
But
crying.
the problem there is that the person hasn't got insight.
No,
they don't know what they're doing.
And I think we are talking about going back. Maybe you may have to kind of come back and do proper kind of, to me, if you can break it down and maybe use some kind of case scenarios. So we can say depression of young children, or where the parents and the children could get into fight because of misunderstanding. It could be drug related, or it could be children themselves who are also using drugs and they are getting mental illness and they are within the family. Because sometimes nobody doesn't know whether it's mental illness or whether they're drug related, and it's triggering something. Because I've dealt with a case where you can come back. The young boy he had a breakdown, and I have to go in with some people, with the mom, and finally we have to phone for this young person to be assessed. It was so that dangerous that the mother used to lock it. I said, you can't do that. We have to go in there, and that's a scenario I could share with confidentiality to kind of learn, because it was a young boy who had a breakdown, and there was a background to this case. And what was happening was that it was like what we were talking about. What's the word? Trying to resolve something which is getting out of control, because this young person had to be sectioned. He was a teenager, but there was a background. And when we are parents and with mental illness like this,
but you know the attitude, obviously, among the communities.
No, that's what I'm saying.
We'll sort it amongst
no,
ourselves.
but this one,
You can't.
it,
that's
and
what
it doesn't have the young person being sectioned.
Section.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's right. You make it worse. By
But
trying to cover up.
Because it got to the stage that I will be called from home and I'm saying, no, this is getting out of hand. You don't want to ring the police, ring maybe whatever, 999 and describe the symptoms. Because you can go in there and this young man will pull the trousers down and will lock himself up. What is he going to do himself? No, so we are talking about a situation where when it reach like this, you cannot manage it. You got to seek help. No.
And I mean, Uncle, talking about it, I mean, recently there was this woman that I had to deal the son, in the middle of the night, that is when he goes jogging. He says he's going jogging, yeah? And all the symptoms were there that this child has got. And he used to do some part-time work. And he's now doesn't go. He shuts himself in his room. And sometimes mother says, I don't know whether he's eating for 3 days. And the food is there. And all the symptoms were saying that child has got mental health issues. He needed help. But mother was doing what I said, when he gets out in the middle of the night, what do? I stay up and I'll be crying till he comes back. And I said, but that is not what you're supposed to do. And I said, you were supposed
Has it ever resolved any issues? Crying until he comes
whatever.
back.
So, like you said there, he says, oh, but you can talk to him. And when I talk to him, he says, and I said, well, but have you spoken to your doctor about this? He says, no, but no one wants to know. I don't want to go. I said, well, just go. The doctor said, well, listen to how you are feeling. Anyway, because that boy, and then now that he was put on medication and whatever, he's gone back to school because he was in sixth form. He was in sixth form, and this started, I think he says that when he finishes from year 11 to 12, that is when he started having those issues. Mother says that it started creeping up. Before, she thought it was attitude problems, but it was getting worse, and he would just slam the door and stay in his room forever. He refused to even, he says this boy who will even iron his jeans, and I will laugh at him saying that you are an old man, now stop caring about himself as much as whatever.
That's a typical sign.
Sign and all those things. But like you're saying, mother says, so I thought that I could manage it. There's no point telling whatever. Because when she spoke to me, she knew exactly. She said, I think something is happening to my child. I don't know. I think it's mental illness. And I said, why do you say that? She says, this is what he's been doing. I said, so you know all this. What have you done about it? Oh, I've been crying and crying and crying. I don't know what to do. So sometimes we need to be bold enough. Even if you go there and the doctor says, oh, silly woman, the child is just a teenager. You haven't...
There's teenage behavior and there's teenage behavior.
If
a child is out
his
of
child is not
control,
well and crying and locking himself and doing extreme. No.
That is extreme.
It's extreme.
Hygiene is going down, and he is someone who prides himself in doing his 2 hours job in, I think, one of these shops. He stopped going, and I mean, every sign was showing the mother that something was not right. And I said, well, even if it wasn't mental health and someone was bullying him, that's why he wasn't going out. You weren't going to deal with it. You were just going
stay
to
there,
stay there and whatever. So we need to wise up to that, and especially young people is the most, yes, we are talking about parents, but when we are talking about teenagers and mental health, that is the most dangerous aspect.
The impact.
The impact
because
is
sometimes,
so great. Because sometimes some of them can't cope to the extent that they kill themselves before you even get a chance to do that. So if you see signs in your child and you don't think this is right, you need to, as a parent, try and seek help for the child. And most of these children, young people, I mean, I used to, when I say, oh, seek help even on the computer, but the research has shown that they said they don't they will seek the help, but they like a one-to-one interaction with someone, because it's a faceless someone on the phone that they are talking to. And often, who do they want to have that discussion with? parents
Yeah.
before the profession.
Yeah. Because definitely once you are able to identify that one, and always the beauty is when the young person has seek help. This case I just referred to, and it was when he went through the sectioning, and the support came there, and he went for the appeal because he was stabilizing. And you could see now this boy has gone back to university. Right? But at that time he was in secondary school. He was not. There were so many things. So all that we are saying is that with the warning signs are there, your child are doing things which are extreme, going out late or jogging in the night where it doesn't jog. If it's proper jogging, you can know. But if it's something where they are not eating, where they are locking themselves up, you seek help. Because it's going to impact on the family too.
It's going to impact on the family. And I mean, there's this lady who also didn't seek help until one day the child says, the voice in his head says that I should kill you. And then that is when she started crying and calling services to come in, even though she's seen all these signs for more than 2 years. And that is when he got the child sectioned like that. And the child said to me that, I don't know why she got me sectioned. And I said, well, by that time you weren't feeling well. He says, I understand that, but I live with her. And this young man said, I live with her. She saw all these things. Why didn't he call for help?
Is it because he came out and said she felt threatened?
And waited until I said that. He doesn't
reviews.
remember.
I was going to get some reviews for NSPCC. One of the things they talk about was threat to kill. Some of the things they talk about, which helps or which, because sometimes the warning signs are there. It says risk factors for parents with mental illness problem in case reviews. This is parents, but it's related to the house, to young persons too. We want to talk about threats to kill, stress factors, domestic abuse, drug or alcohol misuse, lack of engagement with services. And with this lack of engagement with services, we are talking about parents now who sees, and instead of seeking help initially, you are bottling it and you are seeing the warning signs. You are not talking to people who can help you. Then you get out of fun.
And I want to say thank you to some people who've joined us. Of course, we've got Frederick, we've got a few, Sandra, and we've got and somebody called NKZ Nako, and Catherine, and so on.
I mean,
watching us. There are people who are also watching and not commenting. So we want to say thank you and stick with us. Tell somebody to tell somebody that the community welfare matters are on, and they're talking about very important issues, mental health and how it impacts on parenting.
You know, talking about this, that risk. I mean, I had a mother who had 3 children, and the second child told me, oh, do you know, last week my mom said that she will burn us alive.
These children have normalized it.
And I said, oh, why did she say that? Oh, she was arguing with daddy and says to daddy that I'll kill you and your children. And that time the child was 4 years old. And she said, oh, auntie, come, I will show you. And she showed me the mark, their sofa. She said, Mommy, when Mommy said that, Mommy put the knife there and cut the leather sofa like that.
Oh, my goodness.
So I said to, that time, the woman was there. She was laughing. She said, oh, you and these children, they love you to bits. I said, yes. So I said to her that, I said, so what is going on? She started laughing. Oh, just leave me alone. So when husband came, she was sitting there. I said to to her that, listen, I'm booking for you to go and see your doctor.
If not, then I'll ring social services.
And I said to husband, the 2 of you need to go and see the doctor. Don't just let her go. You need to go and see the doctor.
Because a normal parent will never say, I will kill you and kill the children.
And the symptoms are there with
the knife.
So what else do you want?
I asked the husband and said, so I thought she was joking. So sometimes
you don't joke like that.
You don't joke like that. I said to him that even
one day she will bring the knife over your head.
If I say to you that I come to your house or you come to my house and I'm threatening to kill you or kill somebody, you would think that I'm joking because what? Because it doesn't make sense to me. How can a mother threaten her own children saying, I'll burn you alive with your father? One of these days, your father will be here and I'll make sure that I burn you all alive. So I asked the husband, did the husband go? No, they joked about it. The wife went, I don't know whatever was said. The husband didn't take any notice about it.
Yeah.
So the woman also went, and I think she was referred on to a community mental health team. And because husband didn't know and whatever, she was hiding her medication. So she only takes it when no one. So it was like once a month and whatever that happens, to the extent that she broke down completely. And therefore they had to remove the children. And the husband was saying to me, "Oh, you need to have." And I'm sorry,
I told
I'm very,
you before
very good,
from the
but
beginning.
Sometimes, once I think, and I said, "I'm sorry, I don't think you care about your children that much." And I think he was shocked. So he said, "Why do you say that?" I said, "I told you there was something wrong with your wife, and it's been months." And I said, I asked your wife. She said, "Oh, yeah. And when they gave me some medication, and I made a point of finding out, have you taken the medicine?" And sometimes she said, "Oh, no, but he's around." I said, "Don't worry. He won't see you. You just go to the bathroom and take it." I was calling her from whatever. I'm telling you that your wife is ill. She's been giving. Did you ever check? No. That means that you don't care about this children. Why should I?
It's again the attitude.
Yeah,
it's all about the attitude and
irresponsibility.
mindset
Mindset,
of people.
Because to him, if he agrees that the wife has got mental health issues, he's believing that the wife is mad. And she can't be married to a mad woman.
The mad woman, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But not taking into consideration these 3 children. Right?
And even yourself, because there have been a threat to
Uncle,
kill or...
Uncle, him, if he gets killed, maybe he deserves to be killed. For me, it's the children that I was worried about. So eventually, I mean, the grandmother, I didn't know her aunt, the woman's aunt, was living somewhere up north. And eventually...
She was the one
that I rang and said that this is the situation. The children has been removed now. They are here, but we are looking for family members. And that woman came. That woman came, and she was very, very good, because as soon as I rang her, she came the following day, and she was saying that, "Oh, thank you." And she said, "What money will I get? I will look after the children. I will stay home." I said, "What? So what?" So she moved. Those were the days that you can get people housing to look after children.
Yeah.
So she moved, and she's looked after the children till now. And yes, father had time. She can come and spend
go and
time,
visit the children and everything. Yeah.
But and to date, he feels that I didn't support him, and he says, "Oh, auntie," I said, "Well, but
would you rather it's his fault?
Yeah, it's
because
his fault.
Initially you didn't seek help. Would you rather lose your children to strangers than to family members?
So the children, I mean, he could go in, but he is still, so I know that he'd be grabbing me for whatever. But to me, I just said that, listen, you haven't shown anything to me that you care about these children. He says, "How can you say that I'm the father?" I said, "Yes, you are the father, but you didn't show anything
father
to
by
me."
name.
Yeah, you didn't show anything. That should whatever. You know, so sometimes, as men out there or women out there, if you see that your partner is in trouble, seek help for that person. That doesn't mean that you don't love the person enough. That doesn't take anything away from
And
you.
the children are not even removed because you are the protective factor in the home.
In the home.
You are the protective factor. They always look at the protective factor.
The support network.
The support network and the protective factor. And you're there. So nobody's coming to remove your children, but rather to provide you with support. Where I want to look at now is the effect on the children who live with the parents who have severe mental health. How does that impact on them? I know a few things is talking about increased risk of developing behavior problems such as physical aggression by the time they reach school age. This is the child who's living with a parent who's got severe mental health. They go through that. It's also the risk of mental health difficulties in themselves. The child can also suffer mental health themselves.
Because, mental health is not, yes, if someone has got schizophrenia, and the possibility of passing it on to their children is there. But there are so many things, familiar tendencies, is what the children know. They've grown up and certain behavior. That's why they're saying when they go to school, they're aggressive. Because in the house, the normal thing they've seen is maybe the parent being aggressive, and it's normalized within the home.
Yeah.
So that child doesn't know any different. So they think that when you play aggressively or you come across as being aggressive, that's the norm for that child.
Like taking a knife and cutting a sofa, and dad laughing about it. People laugh about it. So how is she going to behave, appropriately when they go to school? They will slap somebody and think it's okay.
It's okay. Yeah.
Exactly.
I think it's okay. So there is that, and also the children, they become very, very fearful. Some of them, they're always afraid that something bad is going to happen, and that is a mental health issue aspect of it. They become very paranoid about everything that goes on, because can you imagine going to school and not knowing whether you come back and mother will be okay? So that child, they don't tend to do very well at school, not because they are not clever, but because the attention is not there. The attention is somewhere else. Yeah,
I think it's down on my list here. The next one says that the demands of the caring may lead to fewer opportunities to have fun and build friendships. So disruption of education, as you said, educational underachievement, and also reduction to life's chances.
There was a case in the London Borough where this 9-year-old mother ran away. No, he was a word. When you go to hospital and you run away from it. There's a term. There's a term for it. Anyway, and there was this mental health social worker who was supposed to go and do assessment of. Then this mother has gone to the school to say some bizarre thing. A black woman saying all the white people here in the classroom. Imagine, I don't know how they allowed this woman to go to the school. And anyway, the long and short is that the
mother absconded from
hospital and ended up in school. And there was no communication that this mother was in hospital. I don't know what has happened. Anyway, but when they said, so from there, she went home. Then this social worker and I myself went in there. And when he went in there, this woman, when she sits like this, she puts mirrors. That all that he has to do is to sit here and give instructions. Right? So she can look at the mirror and know where the ball is. And he just mentioned the child's name. He was 9-year-old. And you can imagine how this boy felt. Your mom coming to the school and making this remarks.
It's embarrassing
and all that.
Bullying.
So when direct work was done with him and he was talking about how he feels, it's like, why did they allow mom to come to the school? I mean, it was. I don't know how
that's
mom embarrassing for him. Because I think they have to virtually remove her from reception. So by the time they realized the police were coming, he left and went home. Ran home from hospital, and police have to break into this house because he locked us up. Myself and this mental health worker.
He locked you up.
Oh yeah, he locked us up. He wouldn't open the door. They have to break in to come in. What I'm saying is that, thank God, we have to use a kind of slow chat to talk to her while you're saying the police are there. I'm not going to open. You people came in here, the kind of stuff. She was not very well. So we are talking about a situation where a 9-year-old. So yes, this boy saw certain things, and it was after that he was able to talk about some of the things he's been experiencing. But the question was, why was this boy not supported till that it got worse?
She must be, that child must be very scared at home. Very, very scared at home.
Not having friends is one of the social skills.
You're not going to allow people to come in. You allow people to come in and see home circumstances. No, so he's very, very controlling mother out of her illness.
And the child lacking social skills, and the social skills you need to be able to be part of everything that goes on in school. So that means that the child not just being isolated at home, but in school will be isolated as well. And then she comes there and embarrass him as well.
So
that means
it will be the topic of the so for some time this will have to stop bullying and all that. And those were times in that London Borough you could see that partnership working was not there at all, because these things have been picked up, child protection, maybe meetings.
It's still happening. Sometimes you go to places and you're asking yourself, what are we doing? We are supposed to be, we are supposed to be working together. But sometimes there are gaps that you don't really understand why those gaps happen. You don't know why, because if you have got a child who was sitting next to a grandfather and the grandfather died in the bus, beside him, the grandfather was taking him to school and the grandfather died in the bus. You would think that all services that got involved will have the welfare of this child and make sure that he gets the proper support within school, home, everywhere.
Yeah.
The child was just left. So the child was shot when he was 13 years of age, some years ago. That is when that we look through history, because someone like myself asking, but who shoots a 13-year-old? For goodness sake. Why
Somebody shot him.
Yeah, someone shot him. I said, for goodness sake, why would someone shoot
Died.
a 13-year-old? He
The
didn't
child
die.
died,
He
okay.
didn't die.
Right.
Why? And then when they brought the records, then you read through the records and you realize, oh my goodness, our services have been very neglected. Because the school did not pick on it. Social services who were looking after him, that's why they placed him with the grandfather and grandmother.
Yeah.
No one looks into the health. No one looks into that worst case.
Nobody told anybody. Nobody shared the
Share
information.
that
That is-
information,
so
even though
he's-
it was in his record
Right.
from all these agencies who knew about what has happened to him. It wasn't collected, said that the proper support will be put in place for this boy, right? So it's led to him trying to, I'm bringing it in because trying to kill himself, whatever. Now he is in a special education place because he's tried 3 times to kill himself.
Yeah.
You know? So it's all those things that when we don't deal with proper mental health issues in families, and this child, mother, I think the 3 of them, they were moved and they were living with their grandmother. Their mother has got schizophrenia and father has got bipolar. So it's something that all the services, us looking after him, we should have taken that on board.
Yeah. Genetically, there's something there.
Yeah, there's
and the
something,
circumstance of the
circumstances and
grandfather's
whatever.
death.
And
Our
he
triggers,
was the youngest, and he loved grandfather to bits from the
No,
notes.
that would have
And
taken
he'd
his
go
toll
whatever.
on him.
So
Yeah.
it took so much whatever. So from that time, if you look at his school reports, everything, it was showing how he was going down and joining a bad company. That time when the grandfather died, he was 9, but he started associating with people who are older than him and doing things or whatever. And no one picks it.
Exploitation.
Yeah, so sometimes I know that services can let us down, but if we don't keep on pushing, because it's about, in this boy's case, that now he's trying to kill himself, he's tried that, whatever, so we have to put him in a special education place. If the family saw that something was happening to him, he's changed completely, saying that died, he's changed. But no one, if other people won't show, this is your own flesh, blood, seek help. Call, make so much noise. My problem is just make a nuisance of yourself to someone near you
no,
out.
it's not an answer.
Yeah.
For me, I don't
Make a
take no
nuisance of
for an
yourself
answer. You
until
push and push and push. You've got to push. You don't accept no as an answer.
Yeah.
I think that leads me to my next point, where it says that the children become distressed if faced with frightening situations, and such as parent suicide attempt, and also overdose or volatile behaviors.
Yeah, and sometimes volatile behavior, if you, what Auntie said initially, once a child observes something, it could be something, parental aggression or rejection, depending upon the age. And these are the things children see, because recently I dealt with some case somewhere, and these parents were talking about, children of 3-year-olds, twins, and they were saying things which was classic. When they talk about, when people come in, our parents come in, the children will run and embrace them. When we try to get them, they don't do it. They have been, these children were premature, right? These children did not have that kind of, the parent couldn't bond because they were and they have not, there were the gaps there. There were things there. But when finally these children were removed because of a very, very severe neglect situation where they were messing themselves up, they were not. So we're talking about issues where children are rejected. There's no attachment, there's no bonding, right?
Yeah.
And instead of seeking help to be able to deal with it, they just left it. And when these children were somebody, because they used to cry, the children used to cry in the night, and somebody was worried about, and they were talking about, 2 children. When they went in there, those who are 3 and 4, 4 and 5, they go out and them. The twins who are premature were always crying and were being neglected and lived there, right? So there were parents they said, we we were not sleeping. They were in the night. You have to get up 4 o'clock and change them and all that.
So
because
they do have mental
health.
issues.
That's what I'm saying. So now they use the word depression. They use the word anxiety, and it got on us. So we are talking about a situation where they were rejecting the children. The children were not bonding with them and all that. But it was because they were premature. They were not seeking help. Yet part of the evidence was trying to be negative to say, oh, they were premature and we did everything. Did you seek help? Yeah. And when your mother comes and your father comes and the children run and embrace them, you get jealous. Mm-hmm. But your parents too were not going to the bedroom to see that there's some stinking stuff there. Yeah. No, so what I'm saying is that, yes, we are talking about some extreme families, but you families there, when you see certain things and your grandchildren or your children are telling you about, and you observe certain things, seek help from them.
Seek help for them because the person who is suffering
sometimes
may have
they
the
hide.
insight.
They hide things.
Yeah. They not have the insight to ask for help.
Because I mean, you know, that the case that these people are, it's classic about premature babies, and especially and also children whose parents are going through go through withdrawal when they are born. Because those children tend to cry a lot when they come home. It's because there's like the attachment is not there. So it's for the parents to try their best to sort of form an attachment. But when they themselves have got mental health issues, they don't have the insights to sort of try and
or the energy. He says, oh, in the morning when I got up, the day that this incident happened, the police had to raid there. Their nappies were soaked. They had this sauce, one of them, a sauce. But linking up to this issue, when they describe their situation, it's all the classic depression, the anxiety that, oh, I felt ashamed that if I seek help, they will laugh at me. Yet your children are suffering.
And so you're thinking about
yourself
instead of the child.
If you look at it, it's about self. And sometimes, yes, when you get to the extreme, then you ask yourself, no, you have a number of children. So why are you doing this to this? And you see that sometimes it's about seeking the help so that you can be able to
be a better
parent. Because
yeah.
parenting is not an easy stuff.
It's not an easy stuff.
And we are all different. And sometimes the circumstance, other factors, financial situation and other things could impact. But you have to kind of ensure that the resources are there.
Yeah, so,
and people can support you.
Especially in this country, in this country, there's so much resource out there. There's so much resource. There's no need for you to suffer in silence.
Or money.
You need to
get help.
You need to get help. Get help. Because who is going to laugh at who? When you look after your children and they are doing well, those who laugh at you will know that you are a clever person. You looked after your children.
And as soon as you seek help, that is seen as a protective factor.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And that's a strength. So because at the end of the day, you go in there and sometimes I always say that it's more than mental illness. I might be wrong.
Yes.
Because sometimes when you look at situations like this where people have said certain things that, because the children initially at one stage we wanted them to be adopted and all that. Yes, if you want the children to be adopted, go through the proper procedure.
You don't leave the children to suffer. For us to just say, I want my children to adopt.
Because I'm not bonding with them, I'm struggling, there's a difficulty. But if you wait a situation where the evidence is so overwhelming that
the children are taking the state intervenes to take the children.
They are going to take all of them, not
then
just the
take
two.
all of them.
All the children were taken. Not the two. There were 5 of them. There were 5 who have been taken. And if I tell the situation, it's quite serious stuff. No?
That's what I'm saying, that we always, I do parent classes and I say to them that, listen, no one is a perfect parent, right? We all, sometimes we let ourselves down. But it's about you knowing your limit, having the insight, knowing that I don't think this is right. I need to get help at this point because I cannot be doing this and doing this and doing that and knowing that that is not right for my child. But when it becomes a situation of you sitting home and crying because you can't do something, you're not thinking about whatever, it's because you don't feel like it and whatever.
Well, because of you're afraid of what
people will talk,
how people will see
you and whatever. Then you are taking all the caring for yourself, not for the children that need to be cared for, you know. And when someone else comes in, and I've seen people will not look after their children, but when the children are removed and they are with the foster carer, it's the foster carer they carry their anger to, and don't like the foster carer, and they are so whatever.
You know what?
So,
yesterday or this week, I was almost attacked again. I was picked on. I went to court to seek an order for a child to be adopted, and I was granted. I got the order. When I got the order, the lady just targeted me. You happy with yourself? Are you happy? You're happy now? Separating families from the children from their families. I'm not happy that I've taken your child, but it's because this child is at risk if I leave the child there. And it's a 2-year-old, so the child will be adopted. I gave you so many chances. You didn't deal with it. And there is nothing I can do about it but to remove, because obviously your child's welfare is paramount to me. And that is how she talks. So it's very, very important that you parents, you show, even if it's not the parent, family members, step in quickly and accept the help. It says also here, when you talk about the impact on children, it says, I think we said some of the things here. We talk about a lower standard of living or financial hardship if their parents' illness makes it difficult for them to work. So obviously they'll live in poverty, they'll be on benefits, and they can't work. And it becomes a vicious cycle.
That child will not have proper education. Therefore, that child will go on not having a good job. And that child's children will suffer poverty as well.
Exactly.
So it's something that we need to break it so that it doesn't sort of follow the child around. But I mean, Uncle, you're talking about, I used to have this when I was self-esteem. This young woman, Italian girl, beautiful girl, and 3 o'clock, she will, even if you're going to visit her, you go there 3 o'clock. She's going to knock on her door saying to you that she's asleep. And so if you come there early, I'm asleep, come there at 3 o'clock. That's when I'll be up. So one day,
you got a child too.
She's got a child too. So I went there and I said to her that, so when you are asleep till 3 o'clock,
what happens to your child?
What happens to your child? Oh, he sleeps with me. I said, so
you're forcing the child to sleep with him.
I said, what was the last time you ate? Oh, we ate somewhere about 8 o'clock. I said, so this child has not eaten till.
When was the last time? How did you take the child take a shower?
Oh, but there's milk there or whatever. She didn't have a clue inside altogether, whatever. But thank God to a neighbor who saw all those things, and they are the ones who said, when you're going, she will say she's asleep, she will have a go. But she was abusing drugs, whatever. So when the neighbor gave me her father's number, we had to ring the father. The father came and took the children away and left her. So that, and left her to do whatever she was doing. But the children were safe that way. So her father came, and later I think the father took the children.
So it's important that family members step in.
When you step in, and this man, when he came, he said, oh, I believe maybe it's going to take you years to go. And I said, once you step in to help, because your daughter is not looking after these children, and the thinking is that we have to remove these children because she had 2 children, and she's not feeding them. Even we tried for her, we tried to support her. She's a young man. We put a support in it. The young lady will go there in the morning, knock on the door. She won't open the door for the young lady to come in, to even come in and feed the children and take the one who goes to nursery. And believe me, this is her house. The nursery that the child goes to is here. She only needs to not even cross the main road, the same side of the road, go to the nursery with that child.
She wouldn't do it.
She wouldn't. No, she's asleep. She wouldn't.
And there are classic examples of something not going well. Because at least the nursery will have been a monitoring source where you tell the child they know how you are feeling.
Whatever.
But when you pick up the child, then they know that you're doing well.
So if you have got a family member who sleeps from morning till evening and they have got a child.
And they've neglected themselves and all of that.
neglected themselves. The child is not going to school, or the child goes to one day a week. And the school are complaining and whatever. You better look into that because something is going on that is not right.
And eventually it will get worse. And the child may be removed. Yes, it's important. I think the last few points I've got here, we've talked about them already. It says embarrassment or shame over their parents, of course, and then also carers conditions. Or carers conditions limiting their friendships, we've talked about that, and social interaction due to the social stigma attached to mental health, which we talked about right from the onset of this discussions. It's also we also talk about bullying and social isolation, and then separation from parents or carers by children's services or the parents' hospitalization, which is true. Obviously, the parents are hospitalized, and the children will be separated from the parents. Or children services are likely to remove the children.
I think it depends upon the circumstances. Because, for instance, if there's a situation, that's why we're talking about support network. Because once it's not managing in such a way that there's somebody coming in there and showing as a protective factor when one of the parents are not well, and the parents the main carer, and depending on the age of the children, then there's going to be an impact. If a child goes to school and he or she is tired, and when they ask you, "Mom, wake me up," and all that, and maybe there's a referral from mental health or neighbor or health staff say, "Oh, this one that's not well," then it's giving the indication, it's triggering things. So yes, anytime children are removed because of parental mental illness, then there has been something wrong along the line that it's not been able to kind of pool the resources and the support network together to be able to kind of support the children, either with somebody who can be as a protective factor to look after the children.
I mean, like this woman that I was talking about earlier, saying that she has schizophrenia and she lives with her children with support. This woman, in a year, I would say she will have a breakdown maybe 3 or 4 times, and she'll go into hospital. But the children were being looked after in her own home with a carer, and she'll go and she'll come back. That's what I'm saying, that her daughter, her 9-year-old daughter, will sometimes say to you that, "I think my mom's illness is coming."
So the child,
the
child observes the warning signs.
Say, "Okay, you come." And if you don't know the woman very well, you go and have conversation with her, and you think there's nothing wrong, even though the child is saying. But mind you, the child has said it. Within 2 days, her condition should go downhill, said that we will need to admit her. But the child would have told you 3 days before the time. So the child knew her mother very well. The carer often will say to you that, "I don't know how this girl does that, She says, I'll be going to school with her, and she said, "Auntie so-and-so, my mom is not very, very well. So when you get us to school, please hurry and go back home." And I'll say, "But your mom is the same like yesterday." She said, "No, my mom is not well." And she said, "This girl has done that 2 times. So now when she says something,
people have to listen. Because she's a 9-year-old. She's got no reason to lie.
And it's interesting that
make up,
when they talk about learning from improved practice, about the case reviews we're talking about,
case reviews,
one of the things they talk about is think family. So this is a child who is seeing something mother will not display to any professional. And they talk about things like listen to parents. So if there's in your situation, and also child focus. This is a child who was giving us the because sometimes one thing we forget is that some of these things you have to kind of listen, but listen beyond listening. Because sometimes they are saying the things to you. And they are giving a warning signs, but you are not. You're
not there. You're only there for a few minutes.
So
families are the ones that
so
know
sometimes
the
when you go in there, you got to see some warning signs, open your eyes, and
and ask further questions.
Consider parental history.
Look behind.
We're talking about the help intervention.
Intervention. So learn the experiences. Say learning from improved practice. So the interventions, because some of these things are the things. When you look at serious case review, whichever way you take it, when something has gone wrong, it's about we professionals not working, understanding the impact of mental health on parental capacity.
Which because we just talked about
generally, and consider the pressures on family members living with the parent with mental health illness. This child, this child gives you a warning sign. That my mom,
because obviously she's living in the home. She's living in the home. Said they,
So the things. Always, if you have the opportunity, and also one of the things in terms of practice is direct work, because sometimes it's difficult to get an opportunity. Where recently I've done some work with some children in some different circumstances where they do your wishes, and sometimes you have to probe. So you go in there, and they some of the children they have a way of So they will talk about, oh, my brother was this. And you say, oh, it's your brother, but what about you? How did you feel about this thing? And sometimes when you probe, he's using the brother as there's something you want to talk to you about. It's about it's him or her.
Yeah.
So
but,
sometimes about
But that's why when I do my lack assessment, I always ask children, you give me your 3 wishes and why. And often those 3 wishes that someone will give you will tell you a lot about what is going on. Because I started asking that because even that time I wasn't doing like assessment at all. But this child who later, it was a big case that time, and that was removed from the family because the first time I met the child, I said to him that and it's something I just do anyway. I met him and said, oh, okay, if you do this, what do you want me to buy for you as a gift? And I said, think about it. My gift is going to be £5, so don't tell me you want a car. And she will laugh. And this boy, no one has ever said that to me. The boy says, I want you to buy me rice and stew.
Oh.
Right? So
he's been hungry. He missed rice and stew.
So in a sense, if you're a professional out there, it's what the children tell you and what you look behind the scene. Because I was sitting down there thinking, why would this child say he wants rice and stew?
He hasn't had it for a long time. He wants proper food, not pizza.
And put in the oven.
Listen, it transpired that, and that day that I asked him that question, the grandmother that he was living with was cooking that rice and stew and whatever. But it transpired that the grandmother punished him with, and that time the boy was just 4 years old, punished him with food. And sometimes he will go to bed hungry. Yeah?
That's not
and
right.
So is that boy saying to me he wants rice and whatever stew? That is what prompted me from ringing the school, going to the school and talking to the head teacher, saying that, I have got so many children. My team have got so many children. I just want to talk to you about this particular child. I know sometimes you don't know why. When you are practicing, you don't know why sometimes something draws you to something.
It's professional instinct. Because sometimes
you
there are certain things
this one. So I went and I spoke to the head teacher, and the head teacher says, oh, you want to speak to me about the assembly? And then the long and short, whatever. I said, what about it? He says, oh, this boy, when he comes to school, even the rabbit food, he wants to grab it and eat it.
Oh, no.
He steals other children's food.
He's hungry, yeah.
He steals other children's food.
And they haven't said anything about it.
According to the head teacher,
somebody should pick that up.
Told the social worker,
right,
who also, sometimes as professionals, sometimes we can be very close to families, but we have to be very careful how you are so close to the family.
You can't over-familiarize yourself with them.
So, according to the social worker, this woman is a deacon in their church, and therefore, deaconess in their church, and therefore couldn't do anything wrong.
Really?
Yeah, wrong.
That's wrong.
So, I mean, the long and short, this case...
Professional collusion.
Yeah, it was such
a
massive case that... when by the time because I wasn't supposed, and sometimes that boy, maybe God wanted to save that boy's life, maybe, because I wasn't practicing then. I was the manager. I just went around and I went and sat on someone's desk who was away. And this note was on my desk. So I started looking through it and I realized that the child has been in hospital and that health officer has been away. No one has been to see the child. And the child lived just a stone throw away from the clinic where the office was. So I just took it upon myself. I'll just go in and see this child and whatever. And that's what that boy said to me. And that was the first time I met him. And that's what he said to me. And that little thing that boy said, I probe and led to us removing that child from the house, plus the uncle that lived in the house. Because the things that those 2 boys said, you'll be so amazed that we can do that to our own people. And these children, when he wasn't living with someone, he was living with his own grandmother.
So was the grandmother having mental illness or just wickedness?
Just wickedness.
And so here it says that, you need to give children and young people accurate, age-appropriate information about mental health problems. And so that they can address any misconceptions or fears they may have. It can also give them the language to help share their views and experiences, as we've just said. You know, this 9-year-old sharing, he's able to share. So if you give them the age-appropriate language and you teach them what to look out for and stuff like that, and it also gives them that kind of...
add to that one, the age-appropriateness is such that sometimes we have to ask them to kind of describe some of the things they are worried about and they see. So if we feel that there are certain things, you as a professional, you go in there, and whether it's mom's raising voice or her anxiety or locking the door, because this, if you ask them to say, can you tell me some of the things you are worried about, some of the things which mom does, so sometimes the description itself, and you can put in the professional, because they might say it with a 9-year-old, for instance. There are things this child sees, and every time it happens, mother goes to hospital or mother is doing something. So they can give you the description, you might never see it, because how many hours do you spend there? Exactly, and while you are there, they will put their good behavior. Or when they argue with you,
then how you find out.
You don't find out. So they will put the good behavior until you go in there. And then they sort the child out.
So
put the child at risk.
So, I mean, the point is, all that we are saying, that you family members will see more of these issues. Children will tell you things that they're saying, oh, auntie, I'll tell you something. Don't just take it just face value. You need, if your friend, your sister, your brother, whoever needs help, seek help for them. Don't let them go downhill before services stepped in, before you also want to help out, because that time the child has been frightened out of their skin before anyone comes, because you can imagine being 4 years old and the police comes in, they are coming to remove you, and whoever, the person they've come with, you've never met before, even if they are Father Christmas, you'll be frightened, right? They come into your house, they want to remove you, and your mommy is not coming with you.
It's very frightening, So to avoid all of that,
all of that, we need to sort of
family members need to really be on guard. And we have Anna Poku. Thank you very much for joining us. We've got Becky Ajiman and Catherine, and so many others. So what we are trying to say is that child protection is everybody's business. It's everybody, your business, my business, the family member, everyone else. So if you notice that your sister, somebody, is, ill, severely mentally ill, which is what we're talking about today, make sure that you seek the support for them early. Because if you don't, that is when the situation goes downhill and you get the children sometimes removed from the parents. The last but not the least says that it is important to help children and young people achieve some distance from their parents or carers' emotions and behavior, so they can develop their own thinking and identify and understand their own emotions and experiences. Because sometimes if they're observing this mother in a crisis all the time, how is the child going to cope with seeing the mother in a bad state, or the father in a bad state?
So I think it depends upon the age again. As you said, sometimes there are some children who have lived with parents for a long time, that we are talking about normalization here, and they block it, and it's the same anxiety situation that you realize that you, the partner, mother or father who is suffering, you find difficult, and sometimes these are issues which you are not professional, and I'm not saying that you have to do what a parent is supposed to do. So let's take a scenario. If a dad is suffering and children are seeing certain things, sometimes maybe it's drug related, it get bust situation, domestic violence, and they are seeing that, you have to say to them that these are not, and that
this is not the normal
way. I'm supporting that to do this, and you draw the line, because sometimes if it's not medication the person is not taking, you have to support. Then you bring the children in to see, depending on their age. Talking about protective factor. You have to protect the children depending on the age, because if the father loses it, I'm teaching the father now, a father loses it and takes it on the children, and the children say certain things.
So you need to help them to keep a distance.
A distance,
so maybe keep a routine in the house. If you see that is like this, maybe go to your room.
And so, or sometimes even family members come in, take them weekends so that you can, and that's why sometimes every family, you have to do your own, what I might call mini risk assessment. A common sense thing, because we are talking about family knowing best, yeah? And we are talking about impact, because certain things happen in the house and people are aware, and instead of taking hold, yeah? Because everybody manages their own situation differently, yeah? So you take the hold and you manage it, then doesn't escalate. Because anytime anybody come from outside and seek help for you and impact on your children by removing them or taking decisions, it means that possibly, since you as a family, I'm talking about a family where somebody have seen it and not taking the proactive action. Yeah. So mental illness, forgetting about the stigma, forgetting about who is going to say, you, a family, seek help. People who are aware, friends, you see things, speak to them and support them, because people will come in and make a decision if you don't become proactive.
It says here also that taking children into care, and I've jumped so many, but taking children into care should only be considered as a last resort. However, when it becomes clear that this option is necessary, rapid evidence-based decision-making is essential, particularly for babies, as we said, babies and children whose development may be seriously impaired if they are exposed to neglectful and abusive parenting for far too long. Foster carers will need appropriate education, training, and blah, blah, blah in situations like this. That aside, it's very important to make that decision, particularly if it's in children, in babies, because a baby cannot protect itself except for with the younger ones. A 5-year-old may be able to run away or tell somebody. So it's very important that we step in on time to protect the child before it becomes something else. We start telling a different story.
I think one area we haven't talked about was of a pregnant mother with a previous major mental disorder, including disorder of schizophrenic, any affective or schizophrenic affective type. Also severe personality disorder involving known risks to harm to self or to others. So sometimes in terms of the assessment or the warning signs, if there have been a previous situation where a mother has given birth and they went through a serious depression and it put the children at risk, when they are pregnant again, it's about the support we are talking about again. It's not because it's happened again. So it's about learn, and the research indicates that with serious case reviews, when the warning signs are there and some second one comes, sometimes people keep it till after some time. They are not even seeking the normal thing. So again, with partners or family members, if there have been a history, it doesn't mean that when the person is pregnant, they are going to. It's about what you do. If you don't do things and people get to know after 3 months plus 6 months, nothing has been done, then they might say, is history going to repeat itself? So it's about,
we talked about the insights, because if you've had serious postnatal depression, the last time you weren't able to cope, you had to go to mother and baby unit, and you were helped, and then then when you got better, you got home with the baby. It's really important that when you are pregnant, the day that you know that you are pregnant, you make sure that your midwife, if you went to see them, your midwife knows, the doctor knows. Your doctor, if that doctor will forget.
Because he will find out anyway if you don't remind them.
And say that, can you refer me to the health visitors? Because they need to be doing postnatal depression assessment and supporting you whilst you're pregnant until the day that you have that baby. And once they know, if local authority was involved in the first child, they will inform them and say that this is what we are dealing with, and then the necessary support will
somebody will just come in and assess the situation. Normally what they'll do initial assessment, and then say maybe they will step it down and get somebody to help you, family support worker to come in and help you.
And there are so many nurse partnership service for pregnant women. There's specialist care for pregnant women. All these groups, they've been set up to support postnatal depression. There are some who, when you are pregnant, will see you every week. 1 day a week till you have your baby, 6 months till you have your having your babies. There are some groups who will see you from day one from pregnancy till the baby is a year old.
Right.
So there's so much support out there that you can have, that you don't need to be back. If you hide and you haven't seek maternity care, your GP haven't seen you, antenatal care, and you are 6 months pregnant, we know that you don't have the insight to look after the baby. So definitely we will have a case conference discussing your child.
Because they will say,
are you going to be able to look after this baby?
Yeah, because they will think, but I haven't had my baby. You have.
Yeah, you have.
You have not sought appropriate medical care for your child. You haven't gone to antenatal. So then that constitutes neglectful to your child, unborn child.
So people need to understand that.
You need to understand that.
You need to understand that the hiding doesn't help. It will show that you don't have the insight. You don't know that you are hurting your baby. And therefore, we will take the decision for you because you've given the decision for someone to take good care of your baby for you. So
thank you very much. We're coming to the end of the program, and somebody said it's very, very insightful. So our topic for today that we have been discussing has been mental health and how this impacts on parenting capacity. The question we asked was that should or can a person suffering from mental health take care of a baby or take care of their own children? What we said then was that we said mental health have different stages, right? So it says all types of mental health problems can vary in severity. There are times when the mental health that the person is suffering is not that serious. So the impact can have the impacts they can have on children depends on the parents or carer, their circumstances, and the support that they receive. So it's very important to remember that what we're saying is that yes, they can, or sometimes no, they can't. It depends on the severity of the mental health or the condition that the person is suffering. This is where we talked about the different types of mental health. We talked about anxieties. We talked about bipolar, schizophrenia, depression, postnatal depression, and so on and so forth. All of them have their own symptoms, and the bottom line is that you need to accept support. We also talked about family members who need to come in as soon as you see that something is happening. Do not hide it, do not collude, but rather encourage the person who you deem to be, you think is suffering, to seek help, or take the initially what people will see as a drastic action and contact somebody. Because child protection is everybody's business. If you don't and it gets serious, then you sit back and regret it and say, I should have contacted somebody. Is there anything else my other partner said? Uncle Sam, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I think basically, also there's one thing I'm not very sure because I missed the first part, that mental illness in general does not necessarily mean that they are sometimes more vulnerable, and sometimes there's this impression that they are rather people who put people at risk.
Who can be? We said that before. That mental health.
Sometimes they become vulnerable in such a way that
they will not normally harm their children. They will not normally abuse their children. But they also need help. That's what we said initially. So thank you very much for watching, and we're coming back next week. We will decide on the topic that we're talking about. We could be talking about again parenting and learning difficulties, as there is some kind of mental health as well. No, parenting children with learning difficulties. The children who have learning difficulties. How do you parent them? That's what we're talking about next week. If you have a child with learning difficulties, not disability, not the major disabilities, but a child with learning difficulties. What is that all about? So we're talking about that next week. Thank you very much for joining us. You've been watching Community Welfare Matters on the COP UK radio program. And then we'll see you next week, Sunday, 6 to 8 o'clock. It has been fun. We forgot to go on break. Thank you very much. We are out for now. Catch up again next week.